Welcome to Episode 2, The Journey Begins, an episode that delves into the move from West Philadelphia to Florida. My story is a reflection of my life and the path I took. This episode focuses on the start of my journey, the moment of transition, and the commencement of my move. My move mirrored a pattern set by my mother, following a family history of migration. This movement led us back to our familial roots. I was born in the summer of 1974 in West Philadelphia. Before I even understood what life was, my life was already moving. My mother was from Monroe, Louisiana, but she followed her father wherever he went. Texas, she went. Pennsylvania, she followed. And without me realizing it, that same pattern became my life too. Before settling in Pennsylvania, my family had deep roots in Texas. We trace our heritage back to this part of the country. Before I was even born, things were already shifting. My older brothers, Leonard and Nate, were born in Texas. Then came Pennsylvania, where my brother Dino was born in Allentown, and me in West Philadelphia. From the very beginning, my story wasn't in one place, it was already in motion. Our journey took us to Pennsylvania, the site of a significant chapter in our lives. It was a place of new experiences and growth. Somewhere around 1977, maybe 1978, when I was about 3, maybe 4 years old, we left Philadelphia. I didn't understand it, I just knew we were going somewhere else. Eventually, the time came to leave Pennsylvania. The beginning of the move was marked by the presence of a Greyhound bus. It was time to go. I remember that Greyhound bus me, my mother and my 3 older brothers, Leonard, Nate, and Dino, all together on that ride. The bus felt crowded. The seats were tight. People everywhere. It wasn't comfortable. It was real. The ride on the Greyhound bus was a major part of the journey. Inside, the world was a blur of motion and anticipation. Remember the sound, that deep, constant rumble, like the road never stopped moving. I remember it being dark, looking out the window, not really seeing anything, just lights passing by, then disappearing. I was tired, trying to stay awake, but slowly drifting off. I distinctly remember the sound and the feel of that Greyhound bus ride. It's a memory woven with the presence of my mother and older brothers. The smell of the bus is also something I recall in every detail. It was an environment full of unique sensory impressions. And I remember the smell, especially that bathroom. That's not something you forget. The whole bus had a certain feeling. People packed together movement, and no real space to breathe. I was a young child, growing in motion. The bus journey became a learning experience, shaping my view of the world from the window. But in the middle of all that, I was still a kid. That's where I learned little things. How to whistle, how to snap my fingers, how to tell my age, using my hands and saying it out loud. Small things, but they stayed with me. We made a stop along the way in Texas, a brief moment of pause before continuing the journey with my mother and brothers. Before we made it to Louisiana, we stopped in Texas. We visited my Uncle Eugene, his wife Charlene, and their family. My cousins were there. Eugene, Eric, and Chastity. It didn't feel permanent, just a stop along the way. During the journey, there was another presence, Willie. I remember him with his afro and big framed glasses. Around that time, my mother had a boyfriend, Willie. As a child, you don't understand relationships. You just notice who's there and how things feel. The journey was heading south, back to Louisiana. We traveled from Philadelphia, through Texas, to reach Louisiana. Arriving in Louisiana meant a full house, with family everywhere. Aunts, grandmother, uncles, and cousins. It was a joyful reunion. Eventually, we made it to Monroe, Louisiana. My grandmother's house was full, aunts, uncles, cousins, people everywhere. Not much space, not much privacy, just people living and trying to make it work. Finally, we arrived in Ruston, Louisiana, starting over again. The Greyhound bus delivered us, my mother and my brothers, to this new chapter. So my mother did what she had to do. She found work and started finding places for us to live in Ruston. And we moved again and again and again, house to house, apartment to apartment, sometimes living with other people, wherever there was space. By around 1979, we were in Louisiana, and by 1980, I know for sure, I was living in Ruston. I was about 5, maybe 6 years old, when it stopped being a stop and became home. And that's where my real childhood began. This is the reality of the start of my journey, a young boy and his family leaving one life behind to begin anew. Some of those places were hard to live in. And it wasn't just that, there were fleas and ticks too. I remember pulling ticks off my skin, looking at them, knowing they had been feeding on me. Bloodsuckers, that's exactly what they were. There were mice too. We set traps, put cheese on them, just trying to deal with it. There wasn't always heat, and there definitely wasn't always air conditioning. We used box fans, putting them in the windows, letting whatever air we could get come through. That was our comfort. But one thing I understand now that I didn't understand then. My mother was doing what she had to do. We had furniture. It wasn't new, but we had it. She made sure of that. She kept us together, even when everything else felt unstable. And even with all of that, I was still a kid, watching cartoons, sitting in front of the TV, being playful, being curious, feeling happy sometimes, confused sometimes, but still, a child. I remember roaches everywhere. Small ones, big ones, in the cabinets, on the walls, crawling across the floors like they belonged there. You could open the refrigerator and see them. They would be in your morning breakfast cereal bowl, floating in milk and cornflakes. We lived off on food stamps and WIC. Morning, afternoon, night, they were always there. And I disliked it. I really hated roaches. Ha, ha, ha. I remember one Thanksgiving day, right before we were begin to eat, and prayer we given. My big brother Dino spotted a roach climbing up the wall, and during the prayer, Dino smashed the roach with his hand. Craziest shit I had seen. Ha, ha. Looking back, this experience instilled in me a deep sense of respect. Respect for my family and the journey we took together. This move marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. A moment of significant change and opportunity. Thank you for watching this video. You can find more details about my journey in the book, Bones Slick.